G'day friends! Today I'm flipping through the LARGE Dylusions Journal, which was actually the first journal I flipped when I started this channel. So, I'm going to bring it back out because I only showed you a few pages from it, and there's some fun stuff in here that I thought would be nice to share. In the background, Oliver Patrick is going kind of crazy playing with some string and a scratching box, so I'm sorry if you can hear that and that's a little annoying, but he's kind of confined to the office for now because Bianca is all the way shook and cannot deal with her new baby brother. So he's got to stay in here until they're better acquainted, and he's just going to play in the background. So that's what you're hearing. He's by the door pulling on a string that's coming from the other side, so he's good. He should be fine. Alright, so this is a part of my full-on mixed media phase when I got a whole bunch of stencils and I had all my Dylusions paints just out on the desk ready to go at any given point. And this was a digi-stamp. I think she's in the store. Her name is Bumble because she's a bee and I'm just so clever like that. I don't actually think she comes with the crown. That I stuck on top. So she just looks like that. This was on a really, really cheap watercolor cardstock, and I was just seeing if the cheap stuff would work, and it just didn't. So I actually had to go over it with a lot of pencil and paint marker, just because the watercolor, if you've got a really cheap paper, it's gonna soak it all the way through, and you'll actually lose a lot of the pigmentation and the vibrancy of your watercolor. So you can obviously layer and layer and layer watercolor, but if you want to, I felt like the more I was adding, I was like, I'm literally just adding like expensive watercolor to this, and it's just sinking away. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend super cheap watercolor paper. I mean, try it if you want to with some maybe cheaper watercolors, but I was literally like watching $7 worth of watercolor sink into the background. So that's why I went over it with pencil and paint marker just to make it pop a bit. All these little bees are my fingerprints. I don't know which one is which, but I just got some paint and finger painted all these little bees, and then went over them with a Fude ball. What's it called? The pen? The black pen? I have it here. This one in 1.5. This is a great pen. Sometimes the ink doesn't dry very quickly, but you can blast it with a heat tool. Should be fine. But yeah, the ink is really black and it goes over, it like writes over most things. It's a really good ballpoint pen. It's kind of thick, but maybe you can get thinner ones, I'm not sure. That's the only one I have and I haven't really looked into it. But a quote to go with it, because I was in a mad quote phase. I actually drew it underneath, but my lettering was awful on this. So I painted over it with some purple paint and then just printed out the quote to go on top. And I'm not mad about it. Here is my little Kokeshi dolls digi-stamp. I'm sorry, I would flip the book, but my camera is set up to where it just fits everything in, and I don't know how I'm gonna reset that up to fit this whole thing in vertically. So maybe if you wouldn't mind, just please tilt your head to the side and look at it that way. I don't know. You can kind of get what's going on, I'm sure. It's just the three little Kokeshi dolls. Oh, I watched Memoirs of a Geisha last night. It was stunning. I mean, I already knew it was because it's one of my favorite movies, but I just love anything Japanese, to be honest. Fun little note, this bamboo was actually done with a Pentel brush pen, which was really fun and super effective. Who knew? So if you have like an aquash or a water brush and some black, or if you want to do it in any other color, you can do these bamboos really, really easily. You just literally stroke the brush across and then flick your little leaves and whatever those are called in. Are they leaves? What are the big parts of trees called? Fronds? I don't know, something. Paint pen. I think I'd just gotten my Posca paint markers at this point, so everything had Posca paint marker on it. And I just love them because if you're doing mixed media, sometimes it's really hard to find a way to draw on top of it or pull it together in some way without actually cracking out the paints. So a paint pen is obviously a lot easier to deal with, and it's just super opaque and just goes over the top of everything. So I use the paint pens for that. This was actually not meant to be anything. I was just cleaning off my brush. I had some cheap black and white acrylic that I was using for something, and I don't like to waste paint, so I was just putting it down on this page. This page tends to get stuck together because anything with a glossy finish, like acrylics, or maybe you're using glossy accents or something, anything typically glossy tends to stick. I don't know why, something sciencey, but this page does stick together a bit. So I don't know if I'd recommend doing that, but still, it was fun. It was a fun little practice to look at tonal variations in black and whites, and I don't know, just a fun, easy way to paint something. And you know what? Sometimes when you're doing stuff and you don't plan it, and you're working really intuitively, it turns out to be some of the stuff that you really like the most. Because you don't have that idea in your head of what it should look like, so you don't fail to meet your own expectations. It's kind of just a happy experiment, and I feel like sometimes you're more likely to enjoy those pages. So this is something I enjoy for that reason, because I had no plan for it, no nothing, and I think it's fun. She's a little Cruella de Vil-ish, I thought, in my mind, but you can make of it what you want. Here are some digi-stamps I was working on, but none of these actually made it into the store because I didn't really end up using them. This is actually a page in my book that I sell. Well, I sold. I actually don't know if there's none left in the store, and I'm not really sure if I'm getting another shipment in. So I guess keep your eyes open for that if that's something you're still interested in. But this is one of the pages that I put in there to encourage you guys to work on it with me and finish it. There's another one in this book too, it's really fun. And I'll show you that. I think it's one of the last pages. And I put them in there because I wanted people to finish it the way that they would finish a journal page. And I wanted to see how different it was and, you know, what we took from each other, what would inspired what. And I just love to share in that kind of stuff. I think it's fun. But yeah, this is the same one. I just gave her hats and a dress and a broom, and it must have been Halloween. I don't know what I was doing. That I think actually looks crazy, but, you know, I don't like to throw it away. It belongs somewhere in a journal, doesn't it? So yeah, I wouldn't really call this page finished, but who knows what else I could do to it. Maybe that's why I put it in the book, because I wanted to see how other people would finish it, so I could literally just copy. So come on, guys, please finish this so I know what to do. I think this was a 4th of July page. I know, so random, right? Because I am actually not American, but my husband is, so... he enjoyed it, but it was just because I wanted to use these Stella digi-stamps. I wanted to make a bunch of examples of the different ways you could use them. That's what I like to do with all of my digi-stamps, because there's something that I have used in a journal or plan on using. I like to include all the examples, just so people don't feel like, oh, you know, she's a star. What on earth could I do with a star? Well, there's tons of things you can do with a star. Anywhere a star pops up in, you know, in your world, you can pop Stella. Oh my goodness, Oliver's under the table just making a mess. Here is another digi-stamp I thought might make it into the store, but she didn't either. It's a little ladybug, and I just put this little nursery rhyme up here. And like I did with the bees, these ladybugs are just my fingerprints. Here's something super bizarre, a mix of collage and this was on that cheap watercolor paper again, and this is what I was talking about. It just... I mean, you can see it in real life. I don't know if it's translating on camera, but it just looked awful. And this was about 55 layers of the paint at this point. And I think I even watered down some gouache and put that on top because it wouldn't. This was a vibrant red, this watercolor, and this is how it looked when I put it down. It just like soaked up the vibrancy. It was so weird. The Grinch is behind there, just an old drawing that I did. Grinch is one of my favorite movies, if not my actual favorite movie. I watch it all year round, even though it's not Christmas, and I don't like Christmas outside of Christmas, but I'll make an exception for the Grinch. This is a print that I had eons ago. Another little mini print that I had tested out the quality for. This was on like a 300 pound, I think that's how you say it, or GSM, whatever it's called, cardstock, and it had this weird coating on it. I don't know what it was for, but every time I put watercolor on top of it, it would separate in the weirdest ways, and I actually really, really loved it. So I'm sad I didn't bring that with me when I moved, but there's a bunch of that at home, so whenever I go back to Australia, I'll do more of this. If that's something you even like, I don't know, I love it. So yeah, this is not actually finished, but what on earth would I do to this page? Like, this is one of those pages where I've got to come back to, and I had a very specific idea and just thought, oh, that's what I'll do with it. But yeah, just to sit here and look at it and try and figure it out, I mean, it looks nuts. She's like an alien looking thing. She's not even wearing clothes, so don't ask me what that's about. She's rolling out the Golden Girls. She looks crazy. This woman popped up out of nowhere, and there's the Grinch in the background. So yeah, basically, my mind can be a little scattered, and at one point, I obviously thought it was good to put all of these people together. So, I don't know what that says about me. Please leave your diagnosis in the comments below. Here is a little pin-up that she became a digi-stamp too, and I actually gave this away when I first made it because I wanted people to try this technique of stamping on tattoos. I was never really using stamps before. I still don't really use a lot of stamping, but like physical stamps, I use digi-stamps all the time, but physical stamps, I find them to be a little expensive and a little messy. Because I'm so impatient and don't do it properly. So I would actually just use digital stamps. But this, I drew them all on because I didn't have the Dylusions stamps to use. But I wanted to, I was a part of the Dylusions Facebook group where everyone shares all of their fun Dylusions stuff. And I just used this to show everyone like a fun little thing I came up with, and use the stamps as tattoos on your people, which is odd because I don't have any tattoos and I never plan on getting any, but I thought there's a lot of people out there that might appreciate knowing that they could decorate a body with stamps, because I don't know, I hadn't really seen it, so I thought let's share that. So it's just a fun little page to explain that to everyone on that group that I was sharing with. I don't really share much on that group anymore. I'm pretty busy sharing on my own group and YouTube and Instagram and just, I mean, everything. Etsy, it takes up a lot of time. You'd never think it would take up that much time. But yeah, what's her name? Wednesday Addams. I love the Addams family too. It's weird because I'm not that dark, and I'm not that, it's not really my personality to like that kind of stuff, but I think I appreciate the humor in the Addams Family movies with Angelica Houston and Christina Ricci. So, yeah, I just wanted to do this cute little painting. This is because I got the, when I ordered an Epic pen from Jane Davenport, she sent a watercolor sample card. I don't have one near me. Oh yeah, I do. Here. She sent this Daniel Smith watercolor sample. So I wanted to use it and just get a feel for it. And this Dylusions paper takes watercolor surprisingly well. It doesn't really buckle all that much. And the color lays down, I mean, pretty true. The cardstock is a little manila-ish. It's like a very light manila cardstock. It's not bright white. So your colors aren't going to be 100% true color match. But I actually really like working with watercolor in the Dylusions Journal. I don't know if many other people do, but it works for me. I enjoy it. So yeah, this is Wednesday Addams. Not much to say. It's just a drawing, really. A drawing and some watercolor. I will say, maybe in the process of doing watercolor, a lot of what I'll do is sketch it out, and then I'll lay the watercolor on top, and then... Oliver's going crazy. I'll lay the watercolor on top, and then I'll go over it with a pen and just pull out the features and the accents. So you can see I've really pulled out the features in her face, but I've left the rose because to me that wasn't something that I was focusing on. But I sharpened up the scissors with a pen. So if you want to try that, this fish was literally just an outline of the fish and bones, and then I went back over it with the pen. So sometimes I find that that's an interesting way to accentuate parts of your drawing so that they don't all just look like, a flat 2D. This is very 2D, but it doesn't just fall flat when you look at the whole image. There's a bit of interest because, these are unlined and look quite soft, and then this is sharp and looks quite interesting. Kind of like in a photo. If you've got something in focus and then the rest of it's kind of blurred out. That's the effect I like to go for. It doesn't read like that, but, maybe a bit. What am I saying? I don't know why I'm talking. Here was me using those watercolors again with a mixture of the Winsor & Newton watercolors I have. I have them here. This was the first watercolor set I got, just like a little travel set. They're pretty used and abused by now. In fact, these two are empty, so I put in some Daniel Smith, Moonglow, and Kyanite Genuine. But yeah, I mean, some of them are less empty than others. It's a mess of a palette, right? But I don't like to clean it off because I think, how do I recreate that color? I don't know. Did it years ago. And I still need it. So yeah, I don't clean off the palette that often, but just mixing all the watercolors together, seeing which ones I like, seeing if they played well with each other, experimenting with pooling and the effects that I could get with that on this type of paper. And you can absolutely get some pooling. It's not as obvious as if you were doing it on watercolor paper. I don't know why. Science again. I blame science for everything, to be honest. But yeah, you can use a tissue and like blot out a lot of the stuff. And this cardstock, because it's I don't really know exactly what it is, but Diane made it so that it could take a lot of wet media, because she does a lot of spreads with, you know, paints and inks and pooling and just spraying everything with water. So it needed to be pretty robust. And she does a lot of techniques where she'll put it on and then she'll remove the color. So I find that works just as well with watercolor as well, because watercolor is, you know, water reactive. So you can put the watercolor back on and literally lift up that color just like you could on watercolor cardstock. So if pooling is something you're worried about and you don't think that you can get it in your Dylusions journal, you absolutely can. You just got to find a different way to do it. But yeah, I like her. She's got an awful story, but, you know, she's cute. This page I absolutely love. Most of it's watercolor. This is a paint pen and this is paint pen. I did some stamping with some Dylusions paint, the brown one. Just really, really misted it on those handmade foam stamps that I made ages ago. And yeah, I loved this verse in the Bible. A lion mighty among beasts retreats before nothing. I think that just shows amazing strength. And you know, we've all got parts of our journal that are supposed to speak directly to us, and I like to remember this because it reminds me to be super duper strong and literally retreat before nothing. Face every challenge head on and tackle it to the best of my abilities, because I'm a lion. I'm a Leo, so technically I am a lion. Anyway, I am getting off topic. This is one of my favorites because I love her expression, but more than anything, I just love the rich, like, vibrant skin tone that she has. And it's quite a challenge to get, some of it's chalking off. It's quite a challenge to get a very rich, dark skin tone, because a lot of the palettes that we get have a ton of variety for really fair skin tones, and, you know, like skin tones maybe my coloring, a little bit pink, very fair. But yeah, to get a nice, rich, vibrant palette for a darker skin tone or an olive skin tone, it's not readily accessible. So I was using all the products I had to try and come up with my own and figure out, you know, if I used a yellow base, would that work? What about some orange in the undertones? What, you know, how far do I push the shadows? What do I bring out in the highlights? And I really love the way that it came out. So I encourage you guys to experiment with the supplies you have, and if you've got another way to come up with really nice, vibrant, rich, dark skin tones, share it, because I know a lot of people ask me how I get those types of skin tones. So yeah, I love this girl. I think she looks very strong. I think she is a perfect complement to this saying, and that's all I'll say about that. Here was a queen that I was going through a phase where I was drawing drag queens, because I love it because they paint their face. So there's like an artistic element to the way that they present themselves. So then I like to take that artistic element and make it my own artistic element. So yeah, I just pulled photo inspiration for that. Little Rapunzel, little drag queen. This page is just nuts. It's a little psychedelic. Here was an old self-portrait I did in these like neon colors. So I still don't like highlighter, but there's some highlighter on this page, so I tried. You can see that I definitely tried to enjoy it, but that's enough for me. Some more. This is an unfinished spread. This was a mock-up of the wedding invitation that we were sending out. Just some old sketches. This was the same pin-up that I showed you before with the stamping for tattoos. I just think it's really effective. Even just like decorating her. This kind of, if you use this dark brown and you had really fine stamps, you could stamp on henna tattoos. This page is a little bit of a departure for me. But yeah, I put it all down here because all this stuff was just floating around in my book. So yeah, not much tying it all together. This is fun. This is another page with Gran coloured in these girls, and then I went over the top and painted in their skin and just pulled out some of their accents. Yeah, I loved it. I made this little fairy village in the clouds, and they're all walking to school. So I just love anything that is sentimental. I'm such a hoarder for memories, especially tangible memories like this. So I know I've talked about pages in my book before that Gran has worked on, and it's just such a great memory for me. So even though this is not a typical page that I'd be like, oh yeah, I love this. Like if I just came up with this, I'd just think, you know, no, I'm not enjoying this. But because it's my Gran, I could have trashed this page and still loved it. So yeah, this is another one of Gran's. Here's a Halloween spread. I think the colors in this are just stunning. This is Dylusions paint, and I used a makeup sponge and just kind of like rubbed it all together so that it had this really nice blend. I can't for the life of me remember what colors they were, but I think that's bubblegum pink. Tangerine Dream, is that one? It's been a while since I pulled them out, to be honest. Calypso Teal, I think that is. But yeah, these are digi-stamps in the store. Lock, Shock and Barrel. They came from The Nightmare Before Christmas, that movie. I made these around Halloween time, but I keep them up. So this page I just love because it's so vibrant. And I love Halloween. I love getting dressed up. I love glitter. I love color. I love masks. I love rhinestoning things. I love all of that. So obviously I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays. These are two digi-stamps that were mixed together. Really just played around with these. I actually just printed them off on cardstock and then painted and stenciled over them as if I were doing a background, and then put their features back in with pen and acrylic paint marker. So that was a fun and interesting technique. It was a really quick way to color them, and I liked the little effect they got with their skin. Kind of looked like scales, but not really. And it just looked a lot more layered and a lot more dimensional to me. And then gave them this really fun background with these abstract jellyfish that I just stenciled in with a stencil circle and then just went nuts with their tentacles. Yeah, I love these two. A little different. And this is the last page I'm going to show you guys. This is another one of the pages that's in the book that is unfinished. In the book, I think it's just her and her. I don't think there's anything else. And I had some writing here like, you know, please finish me. So I cut out one of my brushstroke mermaids that I did when I was first practicing and seeing if that was something I wanted to teach people. So I like her. She's just done in watercolor. And I had drawn this straight onto the page and was using some of the Daniel Smith. Can you see that glitter? This is Moonglow and Kyanite Genuine. It's just one of my favorite combinations of watercolor. And here is another little sketch I did on a different page, and I cut her out and slot her on her shoulder. I think that is so precious. I don't know why. It was so lucky to get that to work because the drawing that this came from was so hideous I was going to throw it out, but I thought she was the one thing I liked from it, and when I cut it out, came to this page, it just fit. Don't you just love when stuff like that happens? This is that cardstock I was talking about that has that weird coating, and it was bright white. So these colors really show up vibrant on this cardstock. I wish I knew what it was called because I'd share it with you guys. And this was masking fluid, PBO masking fluid. I painted that on. I tried to like brush script it a little, but I'm not great at the brush scripting yet. So I painted that on and then did my watercolor background over the top of that. And then I peeled off this. There's a video on my Instagram of me peeling this off. It's so satisfying to watch that stuff. I don't know why. Humans are weird, and we get like addicted to watching the weirdest stuff. Like people pushing those, you know, those like foamy, spongy things people push on Instagram, and they like just play with it like it's Play-Doh. Why do we watch that? Like, why does anyone care about that? And I'll sit there and watch it for about 20 minutes. So yeah, peeling off the masking fluid is kind of the same thing for me. Anyway, that's all I wanted to show you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. There are definitely more pages in here. Some pretty personal, and I probably won't show them ever. But if you come to my house and steal my book, you can have a look. But yeah, I'll flip through the rest of it another time. I'm happy to bring this one back out because there's lots of stuff in here that I love. This Dylusions Journal, I think the Dylusions Journals are some of my favorite. I don't know why. They were the first ones I started with, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I love the Dylusions Journal. I love the card stock in them. I love that they're bound like this. I love the pocket at the front. Yeah, I just love everything about them. So yeah, I love the Dylusions Journal. And if that's all I have to say, I think I'll just wrap up the video now. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.